clawbacks for bosses on Wall Street?
Clawbacks, yeah.
What?
Well, you know, since the financial
this.
crisis, the regulators have been pushing banks to do clawbacks and to, you know, disclose more about their clawbacks.
Right.
Oh, it's where the company goes and takes back deferred compensation or a bonus or, you know, some kind of compensation after things go horribly awry.
Okay.
And the banks have all said they have clawbacks, but they haven't really said much about them. So this group in New York, the New York City Comptroller, was pushing Goldman and Morgan Stanley to make better disclosures about how much they've clawed back, who is subject to the clawback, and so they have struck an agreement with these two banks.
Did we get that kind of detail? Did we find out specific? No.
No. No. I mean,
what did we find out?
What we found out is that the Goldman and Morgan Stanley are going to clarify their disclosures about their clawbacks to say, yeah, if you're a manager, you're on the line too. It's not just the rogue trader, but it's going to be you as well. Watch out. But they're not going to say how much. They haven't said how much they're going to claw back, or they haven't said if they've even clawed back any money yet since the financial crisis. So there's
and
still
your
a lot
story
of
does point out that these clawbacks. Okay, fine. So they say that they've had them in place.
We've got a policy.
They have a policy, but that the clawbacks are rare. Your story says that, right?
Yeah. You talk to compensation consultants, and they universally say, you know, they haven't really heard of any. They haven't had anyone coming to them complaining about their compensation being clawed back yet.
So, and what extent are we talking about here? If I'm, you know, if I'm a Goldman manager making that average of $350,000, if I'm a Goldman manager, I'm making much more than $350,000. But let's take that number. You know, what's at risk if Goldman says, okay, we want to take back? Are they taking back $5,000?
Right. Well, Goldman, when they give out their bonuses, a big chunk of it in restricted shares that vest over three periods. So it's a third, a third, a third. So presumably in any given year, they only have that restricted share to claw back, those restricted shares. You know, they're not talking about cash being clawed back, that, you know, which would really put you on the line to make sure that there's not going to be a problem.
Okay. Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley come out with this paperwork. They agree with the comptroller. They say, okay, we'll do it. We'll release this paperwork. How much of this, I'm wondering, is really, as people like to say, for optics, for show?
Exactly.
If they say they've had these policies in place, but they've never, we know that they never really use them, and now they're coming out and saying, hey, look, how much is this just kind of satisfy the regulator and then get them out of the way and we can go back to business?
I think a lot of it is that right now. Coming down the road, Goldman and Morgan Stanley acknowledge that they expect the Basel III regulations to force them to disclose how much they've clawed back in any given period. So until that happens, we won't really know just how much window dressing it is. But
it all sounds like, you know, my father taking us on a family car vacation and saying, I'm going to pull this car over.
Right.
We never pulled the car over
turn
once.
around.
Yeah.
Right. Next person who says a word back there, this car's turning around, we're going home. You never went home. You always got to Wally World.
You did.
Yeah. All right. Anything else we should know, Liz Moyer?
Well, I just think, you know, everyone should be concerned about this because, as we see from UBS, you know, the bonuses across the board were down by well more than half.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not just that you're on the line to have your bonus clawed back. You know, you put your firm at risk. You should be held accountable for that.
And, you know, it can't be doing a whole lot.
And, you know, everyone else is staring at you.
You put your firm at a risk, you should be held accountable.
What a wacky,
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
You're a radical, Liz Moyer.
That's nuts.